Texas beats the living crap out of Texas Tech 57-7, folks, this past weekend here on Friday, Black Friday, the day after Thanksgiving. I was actually at the game. That's why you guys are getting this a little bit late today, and it's not a live stream. You guys know I love to do the live stream chats and the call-in shows, but I got in at 2 o'clock this morning, folks. I am extremely tired. But folks, let's get into the stats and the breakdown of this game right after our first sponsor.
This episode is brought to you by Manscaped.com. Go to Manscaped.com, get yourselves 20% off and free worldwide shipping using the promo code NinosCorner. Manscaped is the best in men's below-the-waist grooming champions of the world. They just released their Lawnmower 4.0 fourth generation trimmer. Go to Manscaped.com, get yourselves 20% off and free worldwide shipping using the promo code NinosCorner.
All right, folks, let's talk about this Texas versus Texas Tech game. Hey, man, the last game in this series until Texas either schedules Texas Tech back on their calendar here for the next coming seasons here in the SEC, or Texas meets Texas Tech in the bowl game here. That is the only way that Texas is going to play Texas Tech. Any other time here in the near future. And it was great to have Eternal Scoreboard against Texas Tech, folks. 57-7 is what Texas did. I think I had a score prediction. I was talking to Texas Fancy Boots about this. I told her, I said 42-17 Texas. And, even on the SEC Connect show, I said Texas wins by 20. I was on Bleacher Report on Friday. Also, prior to the game, I said Texas wins this by 20. I just thought Texas had the offensive line power, the defensive line power as well to do great things against Texas Tech. And look, I love Taj Brooks. He is one great player at Texas Tech. Totally understand it, totally get it. But the Texas defensive line is something to not be played with. And that defensive line, no kidding, destroyed that Texas Tech offensive line. It was not pretty, folks. It was pretty for us as Texas fans, but not for the Texas Tech fans. Texas handled business. And Texas Tech has been talking mess pretty much for the last 365 days. And then to also have Brett Uramark make those stupid comments at the top of the season, to only have those put back in his face as Texas is kicking the living daylight out of Texas Tech. It was just beautiful. I actually put a tweet out with those comments from the Big 12 commissioner on a still picture of Texas playing at night. And I said, please, Texas, please, pretty please, just play this. And Texas did it. Everybody was adding Del Conte and Coach Sark. And, I'm not taking credit for it, but I like to think maybe my tweet had something to do with that. I hope so. OG Del Conte, please tell me that it did. It'd mean a lot to me. But folks, awesome game. I want to just kind of go off just some quick, stats right here prior to us getting into the actual stats here. Look, man, Texas's offensive line, we got to understand and love how great they're playing. When Jonathan Brooks was out, I was talking to some folks behind the scenes, man, and I was just like, dude, I don't know how we're going to handle these next two games without Jonathan Brooks. He's the bell cow. He is a Doak Walker, finalist here for a reason. He's one of the best, if not the best, running back in the country. He was going to be probably the first running back taken off the board in the draft this year if he doesn't get hurt. So I was very concerned and very worried about where this Texas run game was headed towards once we lost Brooks. But guess what, folks? We did outstanding. Look, Cedric Baxter last game had over 100 yards, against Iowa State. And then Jaden Blue. Jaden Blue has over 100 yards, I think, 9 or 10 carries or so for 121 yards, something like that, man. Jaden Blue, one of the fastest guys here on the 40 acres. He is, I think, the forgotten running back here in this running back room. And one thing that I want to say about it, me and my guy, 40 Acres Landlord, have been kind of talking about this for over a year or two about how Jaden Blue was the number one running back in the country prior to him not playing his senior year down at Klein. and it dropped him severely in the rankings across all the boards. But prior to that happening, he was the number one running back in the country, wanted by everybody in the country. If you were a top team in the SEC, the Big Ten, anywhere, Big 12, ACC, you wanted Jaden Blue on your team. Texas is able to get that commitment. They're able to actually secure that commitment and keep him in the fold, which tells you something about the culture here, folks. Just for a minute, let's break down this Texas culture here for a minute, folks. Jaden Blue is a prime suspect to have possibly transferred over the last couple of years because he hasn't been able to get his shot because he was sitting behind the Bijan Robinson and a Rojo. And when those guys leave, you have Jonathan Brooks there, and then they bring in highly touted 5-star, CJ Baxter, and CJ starts, and then Jonathan starts. You got a 1A, a 1B here when it comes to starting. And Jaden Blue has been there. He has been there prior to CJ Baxter, but he's not getting his shot. It's almost like he got recruited over, right? But it tells you exactly what this culture is at the University of Texas to keep a guy like that in the fold, because you need to have great players at depth to be able to win games in any conference you're in, especially in the SEC where Texas is heading to. So when Brooks goes down and then CJ Baxter, he's dealing with some problems too as well. He hasn't been healthy pretty much this whole season as well. But you see, every time that Jaden Blue has gotten an opportunity to shine, he has shined, folks, and he has done a great job, a masterful job at making the best out of the carries that he's given in the situation that he is given. And I tell you what, man, for him to bust that 69-yard run was totally outstanding. It was good. The crowd went wild, and I was happy, and I was tweeting 40, and I was like, 40, they're doing something else, man, and we knew he could do it, and we're just ecstatic that he is doing it because we understand the kind of back that he could be if he gets the carries. Texas is in good hands, folks. They're in great hands. You couple that with once Baxter goes down and Sark kind of keeps him out of the game, just to make sure that he's healthy here for the next game here for the Big 12 championship. Man, Savion Red, kudos to you too. Hard runner. Absolutely bulldog of a runner. Remember watching him in high school at Grand Prairie? I had a cousin that actually played at Grand Prairie years ago, probably 30 years ago. But I used to watch Grand Prairie games then. I got sent some tape of him prior to him actually committing to Texas before I even knew who he was. And somebody was like, this dude is the only reason that this school is in the playoffs and is thriving. It's him. And you start to look at the film. He played quarterback. He played a little running back. He was all over the place. He was everywhere because he was the best athlete on that team. And now we're sitting at Texas. Why? Why he was that good? Because he's just a dog. He has that mentality. He has that attitude. You got to love it. A little bit too much attitude sometimes. Last week, we got the penalty, Savion. You know what I'm saying? He was on the sideline, and we had a 15-yard penalty for him, John, with somebody else after they got tackled out of bounds. I don't even think Savion's in the play, but it's fine. We won the game. Those are teachable moments. But one thing you can say about that is Savion Red has that in him. This team has dogs in them. And when you got dogs, sometimes you got to get them on that leash and you got to pull that leash back a little bit. It's fine. I would rather pull the leash back on you than have to tell you to go do something. Our team is not a team that needs to be told to do anything. These guys do it, and we got to pull the leash back. And I love it because that means they're going full throttle 100% all the time. Now, the next guy I want to talk about in that running back room, man, Trey Wisner. Man, this dude, Trey Wisner out of DeSoto. A lot of people were wondering, was he just a piece of the package to get Jonte Cook? Was he really a good guy to come in here and play at Texas? He quote unquote lost his starting job down at DeSoto to I think at the time a sophomore who's one of the best running backs in the country right now. I think people are seeing exactly, and I wouldn't say he lost his job, but you're seeing the effort and the dog. You're seeing the dog in that dude, man. 3 tackles on special teams, and then to come in and close the game out here. Texas had the ball inside the 10. They drive it down, really on the shoulders of Trey Wisner. Man, the cutbacks he had, the vision he has, the wiggle he has, man. And he's kind of slight, but man, he has a long stride. Folks, Trey Wisner is no throwaway in any damn recruiting cycle. He's a player. And we're seeing the culture that this Texas team is having with the new classes that are coming in, these SART classes, these last two classes. We're seeing the evaluations that this staff is doing to get a guy like Savion Red, evaluations that this staff is doing to get a guy like Trey Wisner. And these guys were very productive in a game that Texas needed to clinch and seal their trip to Arlington for the Big 12 championship. I love everything that the staff's doing, folks. The offensive line. First off, if I'm giving the running backs a lot of credit, we got to give some credit to that offensive line. And look, I made a video here at the start of the season, actually right prior to the season, that I thought Jonathan Brooks was on. He's going to be on a pace or have a season that was on par with what Bijan Robinson had last year. Not to say that Jonathan Brooks is Bijan Robinson. I never said that. I said that the continuity of this offensive line was going to produce some better blocking up front to give our running backs better lanes, and our running backs are going to be more productive due to the effectiveness of this offensive line. And once Brooks was out and we see CJ Baxter come in and do his thing, and now we see Jaden Blue come in and do his thing, and we see Savion Red and Trey Wisner come in and do their thing, you got to start patting that offensive line in the back. And to look at the different running styles between a guy like CJ Baxter and Jaden Blue, or CJ Baxter and Brooks. Baxter is a gap runner, folks. He's a guy that see ball, get downhill. That's Baxter. And then you have Brooks, who's a zone run guy that his vision is outstanding. It's outstanding. So you can set up plays for him, and he's going to be able to kind of figure out where the hole is going to be, because he is going to use his vision and be more patient. And kudos also to Jaden Blue, because his patience has gotten a lot better these last couple of weeks. We saw him wait a couple of times in this last game against Tech and was able to pick the hole. And then once he picks the hole, 1 foot down through it, and he is fast. But man, get the offensive line some credit, folks. You got Kelvin Banks Jr. He's draftable. He's a draftable guy, folks. All right. I mean, I think we all understand Kelvin Banks Jr. is going to be probably a top 10 pick in the draft in the 2024 draft, right? Not 2024, 2025 draft, right? Christian Jones is going to be a draft pick in the 2024 draft, this draft coming up. DJ Campbell is going to be a draft pick, folks. I think we see it. Jake Majors has, no kidding, surprised the crap out of everybody. People used to knock Jake Majors because his strength or what he didn't have or what he did have. And he's been here look, Jake Majors has turned into a very, very good player. Probably has the opportunity to play on Sundays as well. Hayden Connor, the best pass blocking guard we have here in this team. I tell you what, man, we got some studs up there. And when that second class of offensive linemen came in after those guys, to have a big Cam Williams, to have a Jaden Chapman who came in because they wanted to preserve the red shirt, for Trevor Goolsby, who the staff is extremely high on. Connor Stroh is one of my favorites. I interviewed Stroh, and I interviewed Kojo, and I interviewed Chapman. I interviewed all these guys, man, prior to them, actually coming to Texas. Great kids, by the way. Well, I shouldn't say kids. Great young men, by the way. So it's good. It's good to see the maturation process of those guys, and seeing those guys come in and be able to play is truly outstanding. But yeah, even when the team put in those guys behind him, Connor Robinson and Cole Hudson as well. Cole Hudson, who's going to be fighting probably for playing time again next year. That guy's really good as well. Him and DJ Campbell. If you can get those guys in the field at the same time next year, you're going to have some problems. Those defensive lines are going to have some problems. But like I said, to see the maturation process of this line and see where we have come from to where we're at right now, outstanding. But I'm going on a tangent now, just about how good the players have played. I want to get into the stats. You guys come here because you love the stats that I have here for the Texas team. So let me share my screen, folks, and let's get into that second sponsor, and we'll get into the NinosCorner stats.
This episode is brought to you by BetUS.com. Go to BetUS.com and get yourselves a 125% sign-up bonus using the promo code NinosCorner at BetUS.com. Folks, go download that betus.com app from your favorite Apple phone or Android phone and get yourselves a 125% sign up bonus using the promo code NinosCorner.
All right, folks, we're back. Let's get into the stats for the running backs, man. For the running backs, CJ Baxter. Let's go with Jaden Blue. Let's give Jaden Blue some love, man, because I think he had the best overall game for a running back in this past game against Texas Tech, folks. Where am I at? Texas Tech. His NCN number, folks, 101.66. The average NCN number for a running back here in college football is it's between 45 to 50 points depending on the year. The number fluctuates, guys, but it's right there. So let's say 47 and a half, right? But if you're cooking over 50 points for a season, you're doing good. You're doing really good. 101.66 for the Texas game, the Texas versus Texas Tech game, showing you how efficient and how effective he was. When you're looking at the carries, 10 carries for 121 yards at 12.1 yards a carry. Folks, he had 4 first downs. So, hey, 40% of the time he touched the ball, he had a first down, folks, which is what you want. You want that to be at least 33% or above, folks, meaning every third carry a guy gets, he's getting you first downs. And so outstanding for a guy like Jaden Blue. So happy for this guy, man. So happy for this guy. What's this number here? This is the TDs. He has 1 TD. One explosive play, which is that 69-yard run right there. So 10% explosive play rate per attempt. This should be six successful plays. All right, so SPs, folks. When I talk about plays that are successful in nature, those are plays that on first down, you're getting at least half the yards on first down to get another first down. On second down, you're getting at least 70% of the yardage needed on that second down to get a first down. And on third and fourth down, you got to get 100% of the yards on third and fourth down to be able to have those plays be successful. You want those plays, successful plays for a player at any position in college football. You want it to hover at the 50% range. You want at least every other play at running back or wide receiver. It's got to be somewhere in that range. Give me around 50%, 45, 50%. If you're in that range, you're cooking. 60%, outstanding. And folks, my numbers for SPs are a little bit more aggressive than others' numbers because for the offense, let's be honest, for the offense, folks, the game is geared towards the offensive guys being successful. It just totally is. And that's something that the defensive guys have a lot going against them. You can't touch the wide receivers. You can't touch the running back when they're down the field. This is not the defenses that we've been used to seeing played against offensive skill position players. The game is set up for the offenses to thrive because offense sells. So that's why I've tuned my numbers up to make the numbers for offenses have to be a little bit more aggressive, and you need a little bit more to be successful because the defenses have less more that they can do to affect you. So that's why I make these a little bit more, aggressive. Now, folks, 2 targets, 2 receptions, only let's see, 2 targets, 2 receptions, 14 yards, folks. 7 yards of yak, if I'm not mistaken. And that's pretty much it for Jaden Blue. But the big thing for Jaden Blue, folks, those 10 rushes, 121 yards, 12.1 yards per attempt, that one long touchdown. Jaden Blue has shined here for the season. 46 rushes for 306 yards, 6.65 yards per carry, 12 first downs on those 46 attempts. First down per attempt rate at about 26%. 2 touchdowns for Jaden Blue. Let's take a look at his XPs, explosive plays. And now, folks, XPs for running backs. Explosive plays for running backs or runs that are 15 yards or more. Once we get into the wide receivers, just keep it in mind it's going to be for catches that are 20 yards or more. But his explosive play run rate is at 8.7%. Really good for him. And then 17 successful plays out of those 46 attempts. So having a 37% SP per attempt rate, and he had 1 fumble lost. And that's pretty much it for Jaden Blue. 7 targets and 7 receptions, right? So that's it for the season. And folks, we're going to see a lot of him in this game against Oklahoma State. We are. We're going to see a lot in this game against Okie State. A lot. him and Baxter are going to do some great things. But folks, speaking about Baxter, let's take a look at CJ Baxter, number 4. CJ Baxter, the 5-star true freshman. That's a big dude, man. 6'1", 218 when he first came in. I guarantee you, he's probably around 225 now. He's got to be. That's a big guy. We'll go back to his season stats here for in a minute, but let's go down and look at his numbers here for the Texas Tech game. He's played in every game this year, but having the 47.59. That is his NTN number. So, folks, that's right about average, right? I said, between 45 to 50 points, right? So he's at the 47.5. So that's right there, like right around average. 9 carries for 45 yards. He averaged 5 yards a carry. Really good, folks. Okay. He had, 3 first downs. And so there you go. 33%. All right. So 1 out of every 3 carries, he's getting the first down. No touchdowns this game. No explosive plays. Probably the only knock on Cedric Baxter is that he doesn't have the rate of those, plays that are 15 yards or more. But those are things that are going to happen. He's kind of nagging through injuries. So that's one thing that we got to take into account too. We haven't seen the best of CJ Baxter yet, folks. We will. 5 out of those 9 carries were successful plays. Folks, he just kept moving the chains. That's what CJ Baxter does. He keeps moving the chains. He did that against Texas Tech. He did that against Iowa State. He did that in not the game against TCU, but he did that against Kansas State. Those are games in which he was like basically favored pretty highly in those games. So once he gets the ball and starts to do his thing, he becomes a guy that is going to give you these 55.6% successful play per rate, 45% in the last game, 2 games before that against Kansas State, 50%, 66.7. Those are very high successful play per attempt rates. And it's because he's a guy that once he starts to get it and get in rhythm, it's hard to tackle him. He is going to start to begin to fall forward for 5 yards to carry once he gets more strength on his body and his body matures with another offseason of weights, right? So we love what we're getting from CJ Baxter here. But that's CJ Baxter, pretty much, folks, in a nutshell there. 9 carries, 45 yards, 5 yards per attempt for the season so far. 54.91 for the NCN rushing number. That's what you want. You want it above that 45 to 50 range. Your true freshman is coming in here, and he's giving you at 4.73 yards per attempt, 553 yards. And he started to figure things out towards the end of the year, especially these last 3 to 4 games when he was counted on a lot more because Jonathan Brooks was going through some nagging injuries and he wasn't fully healthy. And then when Jonathan Brooks went out with that knee injury and Baxter had to carry the load, we saw what he did against Iowa State. And I think that's just a preview to what we're going to see from CJ Baxter in years to come here at Texas. So 27 first downs, folks, on those 117 attempts. So first down rate of 23%. Not the best. But, I want to break that down here probably, earlier in the week next week to see what that is on the second half of the season once you start to get the ball a lot more. Only 3 touchdowns this year, but Brooks was kind of doing this thing there. 5 explosive plays, which is something that, like I said, that has to come up, and it will. It will eventually. He's a true freshman. So his XP rate per attempt, folks, is at 4.3%. And you saw what Jaden Blues was. He's more of the home run hitter there, like thunder and lightning with Baxter and Blue. Blue was around 8.7% or so. Baxter's right at 4.3%. And so you're seeing the thunder and lightning from these two guys, where you got your home run hitter in Jaden Blue, and then you can have Baxter be your battering ram who comes in and just softens everything up for Blue, who comes in and just hits the home run. And these guys, man, 42 plays that were successful, 42 out of those 117 rushes. So about 36% SP rate per attempt and no fumbles lost. All right. So that's CJ Baxter. Next guy, folks, let's talk about, where's my boy at? Where's my Savion Red? Savion Red, man. What a game. What a game from Savion Red. 76.61 NCN number here for this game at 9 carries, 72 yards on 9 carries, 8 yards per attempt, 4 first downs at a 44% first down per attempt rate. Look at that. Is that 2 successful plays? No, that's 2 explosive plays. 2 explosive plays out of those 8 attempts, folks, for 22% explosive play rate. Folks, that's like basically 1 out of every 4 carries. He was getting a run for 15 yards or more. His successful plays, 4 out of those 9 carries, folks, for a 44% SP rate, which is really good. Savion Red has been like found money. We had him at wide receiver in the slot last year, and then he converted over to running back. And man, I tell you what, Texas has racked up one of the best. No, not one of the best. They are the best running back room in the Big 12 and one of the best in the country. And they're young. They're very young, which is crazy how young they are. So this is great for Texas. And then having Gibson come in as well here next year, as well as Christian Clark. It's going to be outstanding to see this Texas um, running back room. So hey man, kudos to Sark and kudos to Choice, for training these guys up, and kudos to Cal Flood for that offensive line being able to block and give holes for these guys. But the next guy I want to talk about, man, there he is, Trey Wisner. And it's not Wisner, it's Wisner. I got told it was not Wisner by, I think it's Trey's uncle. So Trey's uncle was on a live chat when I was doing a live chat about a month or two ago. And like I kept saying Wisner. And then he typed out, he goes, "No, Nino, it's Wisner, Wisner. Say it like that, Wisner." So Trey Wisner. Trey, you had a hell of a game, man. You are a baller. So look, I'm just going to go over his season stats because these are the only carries that he has had so far for the season. So for this game against Texas Tech, a 93.18 NCN rushing, outstanding. 9 carries, 62 yards, 6.89 yards per carry, 3 first downs, folks, so 33% first down per attempt rate, 1 touchdown, the good cutback. He started off going to the left. His vision tells him that, look, I got a hold to the right, bounces back to the right, cuts it right back up to the left, going north and south straight to the end zone, touchdown. I got it on camera, and I posted on Twitter too as well. 1 explosive play, folks, 1 play that was 15 yards or more, and 6 out of his 9 carries were successful plays, folks. That's 67% successful play rate per attempt. Trey Wisner is the epitome of a player that you want here at Texas. He's one of those guys that when you see a Trey Wisner, he's a guy that's going to give it his all in every play. He's been a special teams ace, a special teams wizard here on his team. And then he has waited his time here as a freshman and has gotten opportunities now to come in and do some good things here for this team against Texas Tech in that fourth quarter. And we saw exactly what a guy like Trey Wisner can do here at the University of Texas when given an opportunity. And when Texas starts to blow people out like that and they're able to get these freshmen and these sophomores the opportunity to play a lot in those games and some mop-up duty, it gives them the confidence to know that they can do that. So when their number is called, it isn't brand new to them, okay? And so shout out to Trey Weiser, man. Shout out to him. And shout out to his family who's always in my live streams, man. You guys are awesome. Let's do some wide receivers, folks. Let's look at first off, let's do Sanders at tight end. Gunnar Ham only had 1 catch, so I won't look at Gunner's numbers, but we'll look at JT Sanders' numbers here for the game. He had a 54.72, again, above average, really good. 3 catches on 4 attempts for 45 yards, 15 yards per attempt, really good. 2 first downs, no touchdowns, 1 explosive play at a rate of 33% XP per attempt, and 2 successful plays. Is that successful plays? Yep. 2 successful out of those 3 catches, so 67% explosive play per attempt or per catch, and 13 yards of yak. All right, so 4.3 yards of yak per attempt. So that's Sanders in a nutshell. He usually doesn't get a lot of yak per attempt. The guy who does for this team when it comes to receiving is Worthy. Worthy's the guy who gets a lot of yak per attempt. He's that guy. You get him in open space, he's going to make a play. But let's take a look at Worthy's numbers here, folks. Against against Texas Tech, 51.62, again, above average. 7 attempts, 4 catches. We got 49 yards there. We got 12.25 yards per attempt. We got 4 first downs on those 4 catches. So every catch he had was a first down. 1 explosive play receiving, which is a play of 20 yards or more for receiving, which is a 25% rate for an XP, and 4 successful plays, folks. So all of his catches were successful plays because they were all first downs as well. So there you go. And then yards of yak. Yards of yak, 28 yards of yak, folks. You look at his yards per yak per attempt. And then I'm going to show you 80 Mitchell's after this. But look at X's 7 yards per yak, 9.25 yak per attempt, 5.5, 5, 9.5, 8.3, 4.375 was his lowest so far this year, if not mistaken, 7.429, 3.667, 15.25, 7.2. Xavier's yak per reception, outstanding, totally outstanding. We'll take a look at it here from the top. 474 yards of his 883 receiving yards are yak yards, and 7.075 yards of yak per reception. And then his defensive pass interference yards, folks. He's had 16 yards called against the opposing cornerback or safety for pass interference on him. So that also goes into the calculation to figure out what we have for his NCN number. So looking at X for the season, 53.18 is his NCN receiving number, above average of 45 to 50. So he's above average there, but this guy has just outstanding speed. I predict he's going to run a high 4.2. I'm saying a 4.29 or 4.31 in his 40-yard dash in the combine. He is that electric and that fast, folks. And he's kind of teetering there to get 1,000 yards. He's going to get 1,000 yards this season, folks. He only needs, 117 more yards to get 1,000 yards. He will get that between Oklahoma State and the bowl game. He will get that between Oklahoma State and one bowl game. I'm calling it. Florida State's going to lose, and we're going to the CFP. He's going to have 4 games to get that. He's going to get it, folks. So, look, next person, let's go to A.D. Mitchell. A.D. Mitchell, the game that he had today, on Friday against Texas Tech, he only had 2 attempts, 2 catches on those attempts, 35 yards, 2 first downs, one play that was explosive, and 2 successful plays. Not the best, stat-wise game here, for A.D. Mitchell, but he was there in spots where, excuse me, he was there in spots where he needed to be. This team just thoroughly controlled everything in this game. And sometimes when you got so many stars, you don't need your stars to be outstanding every game. You just need the ball. So let's look at his yards per yak. So look, we just saw X-Men's, right? It was like 7 point something yards per yak, for the season. Now, AD's this past game, 3.5, I think 5.67 was probably his highest for the season. 0 yards to yak, 1.8, 3.6. He's not a yards per yak kind of guy. That's just not him. He's a catch, first down, move the chains kind of guy. In that 4th game here against Baylor, he had some yak yardage there, but he only had 3 catches for 46 yards. So he's not a yak guy. If you go take a look at his yak yardage here, 135 yards to yak on 704 yards receiving, and he's only averaging yak per reception, 3 yards of yak per reception. So if you take a look at that, he's more of a catch, see ball, catch ball, get ball, first down, to the chains kind of guy. And X-Man is a guy that that you want space, and that's who we're going to see a lot of next year is Cook. Cook is going to be that X-Man role, and and what you saw Cook had that catch from Arch Manning. So you're saying that the Texas future here is going to be in great shape. Now, folks, that's all that I'm going to do for the players. Let's look at the NCN offensive numbers here for the game. Excuse me. The offensive numbers here for the game. Texas NCN offensive number 58.77 here for the game. Outstanding. So the SPR, folks, which is the successful play rate, we already told you guys what the SP rate is. First down, half the yardage needed to get a first down to be successful on first down. 70% of the yardage on second down, and all of the yardage on third and fourth down. You want that number, 45 to 50 range as well. 50% here for Texas, 51% almost. So 539 yards for offense, 4 TDs from offense, 1 tackle for loss allowed, 3 sacks allowed, and those were kind of Quinn held the ball a little too long, so I'm not going to put those sacks on the, on the line. And Quinn is purposely not running right now, folks. We get it. We understand he hurt his shoulder. I think Quinn's just going to eat the sacks. It just is what it is. But those sacks on that line, I'm not going to actually attribute all three of those sacks to that line. And only 2 turnovers in the game. Quinn threw a pick. And what was the other turnover? Oh, we had a turnover and downs. I always count turnover and downs as turnovers as well. And we had 6 penalties on offense. So if you take a look here for the season, folks, let's take a look. 54.72, that's our NCN number. So honestly for the season, it's an above average offensive number, which is great. You want it to be above 50, and the team's gotten that. The SPR rate is around 45%. Last year was 47%. 01, well, not 01, 21, it was 45%. Total yardage, we're right there, folks. I mean, we're pretty consistent here, folks. TDs, we went down on TDs on offense, but we didn't have to score as much because our defense was extraordinary, and we'll get to that in a minute. And then tackles for loss, we only allowed 35 tackles for loss, the lowest out of the 3 years. Sacks, we allowed 23 sacks. It's the second lowest, almost on par with the season of 21. But 23 sacks here for the season. We had 23 turnovers, which is kind of consistent with the last, few years as well. And penalties, 47 penalties compared to 44 from last year. So we went up in penalties. Kind of stood pat with turnovers and sacks for the most part. And only allowed, we had the lowest number of tackles for loss, but basically stood pat and had less touchdowns. But we played more complimentary ball this year. A lot more complimentary ball. These numbers are extremely equal to what we had here in the previous years. But we play a lot of complimentary ball just due to the Texas defense. And let's break that down now. Let's go to the Texas defense. So the NCN defense, folks, for the game, you talk about a hell of a defensive game plan. 66.67 for the game. That was the fourth highest here in the season. As great as that defense played, you would think that would be like one of the best defensive numbers we've had. Absolutely not. Against BYU, our defense was better, which is, it's crazy how good this defense played this year. Against Baylor, they were better. Against Alabama, they were almost better. Against Rice, they were better. This defense was stupid good this year. And in this game, they were really good. A 66.67 NCN defensive number. TDs allowed, 1 for the game. What's the next category? Tackles for loss and sacks. 3 tackles for loss, 2 sacks. It's at fumbles. Yeah, so no fumble recoveries. Look at the numbers. I know I'm scrolling up a lot. Interceptions and 4th down stops. Okay, so interception, we had 3 interceptions, 4 4th down stops, and only 2 penalties. So let's take a look at the defensive numbers here throughout the years. Man, Texas defense. Shout out to Coach PK, man. This defense has gotten so much better over the years. 44.86 points here, folks, for the defensive side of the ball here for 21, which was right at average to right below average, especially considering the team with Texas with the kind of talent that's on that team. 2022, we go from a bottom third to a top third team, 51.75. And in 2023, we are a number 4 ranked team in the rush defense. We're pretty bad in the pass defense. However, overall defense, this is how strong our rush defense is, folks. Overall defensive rankings, if I'm not mistaken, we're a top 20 defense here in the country. The SPR rate, folks, so the successful play rate has increased every year as well. The defensive, SPR rate, it was 46% in 21, 52 in 22, and 56%, 55.9% in 23. We've allowed 23 touchdowns, folks. 23, almost half as many as we did in 2021. So that's why we're able to play complementary ball and not have our offense have to just go out there and score 50 to 60 touchdowns a year. They can score 42 touchdowns a year because our defense is only allowing 23. Tackles for loss, 49 tackles for loss this year. Less than we had the previous years, but that's kind of a misleading stat there because look at our sacks there. Our sacks, folks, 31 sacks. And so I count my tackles for loss and sacks in 2 different categories, right? I don't add my sacks into my tackles for loss like the NCAA does. I like to keep them separate. We had 5 fumbles forced and recovered, 15 interceptions this year, almost as many interceptions this year as we've had in the last few years combined, 11 4th down stops, and only 17 penalties. So we've had a very clean defense this year. Very clean defense. Outstanding defensive game. We'll do a couple more, folks. Let's go to the explosive play rate, the XPR, and just show you how explosive this defense was in this game, or this offense was in this game. So against Texas Tech, man, I hate that I can't. Okay, XP rate rushing. So 4 explosive rushing plays out of 40 rushing plays. So that's 15 yards more in a rush. 2 explosive passing plays out of 35 passing plays total. So that's passing plays that are 20 yards or more. 6 total out of the total 75. And so we're looking at an explosive rushing rate of 10%, explosive passing rate of 5.7%, and explosive rate total, folks, of 8%. Now, XP yards rushing. So 133 yards out of 313 yards rushing were explosive play rushing yards, folks. So just take into account, we had 313 rushing yards, and 133 of those came from plays that were 15 yards or more. So our average explosive play rush was 33.25 yards per explosive play rush, and almost 43%, 42.5% of our rushing yards came from explosive play yards. Kind of just kind of breaks down just how explosive our offense was. Now for passing, folks, we've only had 43 explosive play yards when it comes to passing. That's so weird, but only 226 passing yards, folks. So 19% of our explosive play, or 19% of our passing yards were plays that were explosive in nature. So if you go take a look at here for the season, we had 35 explosive rushing plays this season, kind of on par with what we've had in the previous 2 seasons. 35 and 21, 39 and 22, and 35 this year. 428 explosive play yards. Guys, when you say Sark has a type, like a type of offense he likes, he is pretty consistent with his offenses, right? Now look at explosive play passes, right? 44 explosive play passes, meaning passes that are actually 20 yards or more, out of 407 passing plays. So we had a total of 79 explosive plays this year, which is down pretty much from the past, like 2 years. Actually, we went down every year, but our team's gotten better. So it's like we are understanding our identity and not trying to hit the deep play all the time, which is great. But our explosive play rushing rate kind of stayed the same: 8.2%, 8.76%, 8.2% again. Explosive play rate for passing, we were extremely high in 2021 with Casey Thompson at 16.67. The XP rate for passing, 12.06% between Quinn and Hudson Card last year, and 10.8% this year between Quinn, Arch, and Murphy. And our total here, 9.4% explosive play rate total for the season. So if you look at the explosive play rushing yards, 983 total out of 2,421 for a 41% rate. So pretty consistent, right? So 40.6%. So 41.6%, pretty consistent. The passing plays, look here, folks, 1,420, 1,420 explosive play yards in passing, which is pretty consistent with last year, even though we have less, right? So out of those 3,265 yards, we're averaging 32.27 yards per explosive play pass, which is really good. And the rate, folks, is at 43.5% compared to our first year. We were high. I mean, our XPR rate for passing was 63%, folks. That's a ton. That means we were trying to hit the deep ball whenever. And yes, we would hit the deep ball a lot, but we took so many more shots to have to do it. That's not what you want. Last year went down to 47%. This year, 44%, which shows you complementary offense and defense, folks. Sark has understood his assignment and understands who this team is, right? So that's what we got here. And then let's see, XPR's total, 2,400 yards out of the 5,600 yards or so. So a 42% rate for our XPR yards total here for the game. Now, the last category, folks, I want to talk about is successful plays. Successful play rate. We'll take a look at the game against Texas Tech, right? Successful play rate, 22 rushes out of 22 SPs rushing out of 40, 16 successful passing plays out of 35. So a total, folks, of 38 total out of 75 plays. The XPR rate for rushing is 55%. For passing is going to be 46%, and then for the game, 50.7%. Now, so let's take a look at it here from the season as a total. 183 successful plays rushing, so that out of 428, and passing 190. So even though we're not getting the most explosive plays out of this, it's the lowest that we've had in passing here for the last 3 years. We're getting more successful plays. That means we're taking what the defense is giving us and not going for the bomb all the time. So 407 passing plays. So the total, folks, is 376 successful plays total for the season out of 837 total plays, a rate of 43% rushing, which is down from the previous 2 seasons. Yeah, Bijan and Rojo, so around 49% for the past 2 seasons. This year, Brooks, Baxter, Blue, and Savion Red, and now Trey Wisner, around 43%. Passing plays were actually, it's higher than the previous 2 seasons. So even though we have sacrificed explosive plays in the passing game, we've gained in being successful. We've gotten plays that were, no kidding, leading us to first downs at a much higher rate. It's the highest that we've had in these 3 years. And our successful play rate total for the season is 44.9%, so 45%. So, folks, that, my friends, is everything about the Texas Tech game. A lot to recap. You guys know I love talking to you guys about this. Sorry that I didn't do the live stream today, but I just wanted to record this so I can just get it out and not do a call-in show. But I am going to do a recap here on the season, and for sure that's going to be live streaming, live calling in for you guys. But folks, hey man, I appreciate everything that you guys do. Like, comment, subscribe, and share. It helps me grow the channel a lot. And yeah, Texas, we're 11-1. Horns always up. Hook 'em. We out. Peace. Deuces.